How would you feel if you were despised because of your white skin, your blonde hair, and your blue eyes? Your history was a mystery, your contributions were excluded, your manhood was disputed, your neighborhood was polluted. Disrespected so long you lose touch with reality, cause your own fatality with a slave mentality. Stereotyped by the media, police always beating you. Economic segregation was designed for defeating you. You kill your own brother with no conscience or remorse. Rape your own sister with drugs or by force. How would you feel if blacks had all authority, whites were the minority, in prison the majority? A white man on trial, a prison term was surely with a black prosecutor, a black judge, and an all-black jury. How would you feel if whites played the roles of killers? No positive role models, just thugs and drug dealers. And violence was glorified in country and rock and roll, with little white girls dressed like hoes in music videos. Now suppose it was the black house the president lived in, and money had faces of only black men. Malcolm X on the 50, Marcus Garvey on the 10, and a $100 bill hit the face of Kingpin. Now pretend there was a market out for child adoption. Black kids were high demand and white kids were last option. When you shop, people stop like a robbery is sure to be. Escorted through the store and followed by security. What a black meant purity and white meant tainted. Now this picture that I painted is really f***ed up, ain't it? Now you white folks can't imagine how this bullshit would feel, but ask me or any black man, they know, cause that shit's real. How the f*** would you feel?
The connection between black American freedom fighters and other world leaders. In this edition, I would like to emphasize Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, and Robert F. Williams. These three world leaders had connections with other world leaders. For instance, Marcus Garvey gave lectures in Harlem during the 1920s. And in that time, Ho Chi Minh actually attended Garvey's lectures. And he was so inspired by the Black Liberation Movement that it inspired him to write a book called The Black Race. In addition, Malcolm X had connections with other world leaders, such as Che Rivera and Fidel Castro. When Fidel Castro came to Harlem, he sat down with Malcolm X in the Teresa Hotel, and they had many intriguing discussions about liberation. And finally, and certainly not the least, Robert F. Williams, another one that had a great influence on world leaders. When Robert F. Williams went to Cuba, he had his own radio broadcast called Radio Free Dixie, as many of you know. But in addition, he was able to reach out through the transmitters of Havana to reach out to Chairman Mao and appeal to him about the suffering of black Americans. And he got a response from Chairman Mao. He also made an appeal to Ho Chi Minh, which Ho Chi Minh was already familiar with the black struggle because he wrote a book about it. So when Robert F. Williams and Malcolm X were together, they formed a bond with each other. And they both strategized and tried to figure out ways to help black America during the time of crisis. One of the things that both Robert F. Williams and Malcolm X did was they made an appeal to Fidel Castro, and Fidel Castro made his self available to both parties, particularly Robert F. Williams. Robert F. Williams then went to China, and he had a great speech on behalf of black Americans. And I would like you to hear just a little piece of that speech.
The Chinese people warmly welcome Mr. Robert Williams, noted Afro-American leader, and Mrs. Williams. Wherever they go, Mr. and Mrs. Robert Williams are cordially welcomed by the Chinese people, who deeply admire the just struggle of the black people in the United States.
When the 4 little girls were killed praying in a Birmingham church, when they had their heads blown off by racist thugs, I made many appeals, and I felt rather frustrated because I had always advocated a policy of self-defense. I had believed in fighting back. Now I was out of the country and this horrible thing had happened, and I felt empty inside and helpless. And I wondered what I could do. And what did I have? I had the telegraphic services of Cuba. So I started to use that. I appealed to many leaders.
Robert was fearing that if some worldwide attention wasn't brought to bear on what was going on, that it was going to become a genocidal maneuver against our movement, and the movement would be crushed by, and genocide would take place against our people.
From Cuba in 1963, Robert Williams called on world leaders to protest Birmingham and support the struggle against racism. One powerful world leader responded, Chairman Mao Zedong of China, who issued his first public statement in 10 years, his famous statement in support of the struggle of the Negro people of the United States against discrimination. It was an act of solidarity at a crucial time that Robert and Mabel never forgot. Meanwhile, in the United States, mass frustration and anger built with unemployment in urban centers, more and more soldiers of color killed in Vietnam, and police shootings of black youth.
It is important to note that when Robert F. Williams reached out on the behalf of black Americans because of the church bombings in Birmingham, Alabama, it was under that context that he was able to get a response. Soon afterwards, or during that time, Malcolm X also spoke out about the same atrocity, about the church bombings, and he gave his input, and he was asked questions about it, and the responsibility or the lack of responsibility on the part of the government at that time.
Sunday, September 15th, in the year of our Lord, 1963. It was a cool, overcast morning in Birmingham, Alabama. Sunday school classes were just ending in the basement of the 50-year-old yellow brick 16th Street Baptist Church. The morning's lesson was The Love That Forgives, the 5th chapter of Matthew. Outside, parents were arriving to collect the children. At 22 minutes past the hour of 10, a force let loose that electrified and shook the world. The Birmingham Police Department's 6-wheel riot tank entered the area, and cops commenced firing shotguns over the Negroes' heads to rock-throwing retaliation. Young boys started stoning passing cars with white passengers. Police ordered them to stop. One 16-year-old boy ran. A cop killed him with a buckshot blast. Sunday, September 15th, 1963. 19 hurt, 5 dead.
This didn't happen in Nazi Germany, and it didn't happen in South Africa. It happened right here in America, in Birmingham, Alabama. It didn't happen back in the Dark Ages. It happened in 1963, right after the March on Washington. And it wasn't a dream. This was a nightmare. Where were the leaders? Where was America? Where was the government?
Minister Malcolm, who was guilty of the bombing in Birmingham?
The government was guilty. The guilt is upon the United States government for the murder of those 4 little girls who died in that bombing. The guilt was upon the United States government for those little boys who were shot down right afterward, because it is the failure of the government to do its job that has given the people of that area the feeling that they can brutalize and victimize and murder the Afro-American in cold blood knowing that nothing will be done about it. The government was guilty, the government still is guilty, and will always be guilty until the murderers of those little girls have been brought to justice.
It is also important to note that Ho Chi Minh of Vietnam, in addition to writing a book called The Black Race, he also quoted the Declaration of Independence to the United States government and asked for or requested his independence for his country. And that request was a no.
This letter is a document, or the document is a letter from Ho Chi Minh to President Harry S. Truman, February 28, 1946. On that day, Ho Chi Minh sent a telegram from Vietnam through the Office of Strategic Services Station in Kunming, China, to President Harry S. Truman in Washington, D.C. In the message, the Vietnamese leader asked for American support of Vietnam's independence from France. He also asked for U.S. help in making negotiations with France comply with the principles of the Atlantic and San Francisco charters. Ho Chi Minh's telegram was one of several left unanswered by Harry Truman. The United States did not support the Vietnamese struggle against the French. The telegram is titled President Ho Chi Minh, Vietnam Democratic Republic, Hanoi, to the President of the United States of America in Washington, D.C., and the letter reads, "On behalf of Vietnam government and people, I beg to inform you that in course of conversations between Vietnam government and French representatives, the latter require the secession of China and the return of French troops. Hanoi stop. Meanwhile, French population and troops are making active preparations for a coup de main in Hanoi and for military aggression stop. I therefore most earnestly appeal to you personally and to the American people to interfere urgently in support of our independence and help making the negotiations more in keeping with the principles of the Atlantic and San Francisco charters. Respectfully, Ho Chi Minh."
To put everything in its proper perspective, I just want to emphasize that we can only understand our oppressors' psychology by understanding their history. And this is what our ancestors did. Our ancestors collected valuable information and gave us spiritual guidance needed to overcome many issues that we deal with today. So this is the commentary, and this is the main focus of the connection between our leaders, our former leadership, and their relationship with other world leaders that were also looking for freedom and justice and their own sovereignty and liberation. And we were fighting on the same front. So this is a thing that, it's very necessary to understand this connection, because these are things that we seldomly hear about in its proper context.
Then there was the case of Mrs. Reed, Mary Ruth Reed. She was about, I think, 7 or 8 months pregnant. And this man, white man, came to her house, and he tried to get her to go to bed with him, and she resisted, and he beat her, started attacking her.
The struggle went into the field between two houses, and her white neighbor saw Medlin beating her and pulling at her clothing and ran out. And she and her children were fighting with him, and the white woman came out and she saw what had happened, and he eventually left without having raped her, but he had tried.
So what had happened was that during this time, some men in the community, this woman also had some brothers, had 3 or 4 brothers, and the men in our guard said that we should kill this man.
Rob said, no, let's let the law handle it. So, and Rob really believed in the law during those days.
They brought this man, Louis Medlin, the white man, brought his wife and set him at his side, all during the time the trial was on it. His lawyer got up and said, "Judge, Your Honor, this man is not guilty, that he was just drinking, having a little fun. Said, you see this woman sitting here at his side? This is the pure flower of life, God's greatest gift to man, this white woman. And do you think that he would leave this pure flower of life for that? And so, that was the end of the trial.
They found him not guilty and dismissed the case. At that point, every black woman in the courtroom was in tears and angry and ready to do something. And they took the accuser out the back door. They took them out the back door, and when we all met down where Rob was, and he saw what our condition was and how, and one woman said, these people have declared open season on black women. What are you going to say now? What are we going to do now? And that's when he made that statement.
I would like for you to hear the speeches done by Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, and Robert F. Williams in their own words, and just how influential and powerful they were, and how much we need that same message to be translated today.
I made a statement that if the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution cannot be enforced in this social jungle called Dixie, it is time that Negroes must defend themselves, even if it is necessary to resort to violence. That there is no law here, and there is no need to take the white attackers to the courts because they will be freed, and that the federal government is not coming to the aid of people who are oppressed, and it is time for Negro men to stand up and be men, and that if it's necessary for us to die, we must be willing to die. If it's necessary for us to kill, we must be willing to kill.
When I am dead, wrap the mantle of the red, the black, and the green around me, for in the new life I shall rise up with God's grace and blessing to lead the millions up the heights and the triumph that you well know. Look for me in a world when there is storm. Look for me all around you, for with God's grace I shall come back with countless millions of black men and women who have died in America, those who have died in the West Indies, and those who have died in Africa, to aid you in the fight for liberty, freedom, and life. Any leadership that teaches you to depend upon another race is a leadership that will enslave you. Any leadership that teaches you to depend upon another race is a leadership that will enslave you. They gave leadership to our foreparents, and that leadership made them slaves. But we have decided to find a leadership of our own to make ourselves free men. Our great scholars, having passed through the colleges and universities, have thrown away the blessed record. Babylon did it. Assyria did it. France under Napoleon did it. Germany under Prince von Bismarck did it. England under America under George Washington did it. Africa with 400 million black people can do it. If you cannot do it, if you are not prepared to do it, then you will die. You race of cowards, you race of imbeciles, you race of good for nothing. If you cannot do what other men have done, what other nations have done, what other races have done, then you had better die. Can we do it? We can do it. We shall do it. We have prayed to God for vision and for leadership. And He has given us our universal vision. A vision that will not limit our possibilities to America. A vision that will not limit our possibilities to the West Indies, but a vision that said there must be a free and redeemed Africa. Christ the crucified, Christ the despised. We appeal to you for help, for succor, for leadership. When you endeavor to carry your burden up the heights of Calvary, when white men scorned you, when white men scorned you, when white men spat upon you, When white men pierced your side out of which blood and water gushed forth, it was a black man in the name of Simon the Syrian who took your cross and bore it up the heights of Calvary. And now that we are bearing our burden of being so heavy, we just ask that you just help us on up the heights. Oh yes, the cause is grand, the cause is glory. Surely we shall not turn back. Oh, sail on, sail on, sail on, oh mighty ship of state, sail on until the flag of the red, the black, and the green is perched upon the hills of South Africa. Because the time must come for the black man to forget his hero worship of other races and to create and emulate heroes of his own. We must canonize our own saints, create our own martyrs, and elevate the positions of fame and honor black men and women who have made a distinct contribution to our racial history. Sojourner Truth is worthy of a place of sainthood alongside of Joan of Arc. Crispus Attucks and George William Gordon are entitled to the halo of martyrdom with no less glory than the martyrs of any other race. Toussaint Louverture's brilliancy as a soldier or a statesman outshone that of any other people. Hence he's entitled to the highest place as a hero among men. Because Africa's created millions and countless millions of black men and women in war and peace, whose luster and bravery outshone that of any other people. So why not see good and perfection in ourselves? We must inspire our literature and promulgate the doctrine of our own without any apologies to the powers that be. That's right, it's ours and God. Let sentiments and cross opinions go to the winds. We are entitled to our own opinion and are not obligated to or bound by the opinions of others. If others laugh at you, return the laughter to them. If they mimic you, return the compliment with equal force. Because they have no more right to dishonor, discredit you in manhood than you have in dealing with them. Honor them when they honor you. Disrespect and disregard them when they vilely treat you. Their arrogance is but skin deep, an assumption that has no foundation in morals or in law. They have sprung from the same family tree of obscurity as we have. Their history is as rude in its primitiveness as ours. Their ancestors were running wild in living in trees of branches like monkeys as ours. They made human sacrifices, ate the flesh of their own dead and wild meat from beasts for centuries, even as they have accused us of doing. Their cannibalism is more prolonged than ours. When we were embracing the banks of the Nile, they were still drinking blood out of the skulls of their conquered dead. After our civilization had reached the noonday of progress, they were still living in holes with bats, rats, and other insects and animals. After we had already unfathomed the mystery of the stars and reduced the heavenly constellation to minute and regular calculus, there were still backwoodsmen living in ignorance and in blatant darkness. The world is indebted to us for the benefits of civilization. They stole our arts and sciences from Africa. Then why should we be ashamed of ourselves? Their modern improvement to be reflected and resurrected by our generation and our posterity. Why should we be discouraged if somebody laughs at us today? Who's to tell what tomorrow will bring forth? Did they not laugh at Christ, Moses, Muhammad? Was there not a Carthage, Greece, and Rome? So we see and have changes every day. So pray, work, be steadfast, and be not dismayed. Because as the Jew is held together by his religion, the white race is by the assumption and the unwritten law of superiority, the Mongolian by the precious tie of blood. Likewise, the black man must unite in one grand racial hierarchy. Our union must know no clime, no nationality, but let us all hold together in every country, in every clime, making a racial empire upon which the sun shall never set.
We are African, and we happen to be in America. We're not American. We are people who formerly were Africans who were kidnapped and brought to America. Our forefathers weren't the Pilgrims. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. The rock was landed on us. We were brought here against our will. We were not brought here to be made citizens. We were not brought here to enjoy the constitutional gifts that they speak so beautifully about today. And because we weren't brought here to be made citizens today, now that we've become awakened to some degree and we begin to ask for those things which they say are supposedly for Americans, they look upon us with hostility and unfriendliness. If you're interested in freedom, you need some judo, you need some karate, you need all the things that will help you fight for freedom. Nationalism is the wave of the present and the future. It is nationalism that's bringing freedom to oppressed people all over the world. It was nationalism that brought freedom to the Algerians. It was nationalism that brought freedom to the Nigerians and to the Ghanaians. It was nationalism that brought freedom to the people of Uganda and Tanganyika and Sudan and Somaliland. The Africans didn't get it by sitting in. They didn't get it by waiting in. They didn't get it by singing "We Shall Overcome." They got it through nationalism. And you and I will get it through nationalism. What is it? What is it that makes it difficult for the philosophy of nationalism to spread among the so-called Negroes? Number one, they think they have a stake in America. They think they have an investment in this country, which we do. We invested 310 years of slave labor, 310 years, every day of which your and my mother and father worked for nothing. Not 8 hours a day. There was no union in that day. They worked from sun up until sundown, from can't see in the morning until can't see at night. They never had a day off. And on Sunday, they were allowed to sit down and sing about when they die, they wouldn't be slaves no more. When they die, they wouldn't be slaves no more. They'd go up in the sky, and every day would be Sunday. That's a shame. And it is that 310 years of slave labor that went in, that was my and your contribution into this particular economy and political system. They can give us the back pay. Let's join in. If this is what the Negro wants, let's join him. Let's show him how to struggle. Let's show him how to fight. Let's show him how to bring about a real revolution. Let's make him stop jiving. You don't need a debate. You don't need a filibuster. You need some action.
Your history was a mystery, your contributions were excluded, your manhood was disputed, your neighborhood was polluted. Disrespected so long you lose touch with reality, cause your own fatality with a slave mentality. Stereotyped by the media, police always beating you, economic segregation was designed for defeating you. You kill your own brother with no conscience or remorse, rape your own sister with drugs or by force. How would you feel if blacks had all authority, whites were the minority, in prison the majority? A white man on trial, a prison term was surely with a black prosecutor, a black judge, and an all-black jury? How would you feel if whites played the roles of killers? No positive role models, just thugs and drug dealers. And violence was glorified in country and rock and roll with little white girls dressed like hoes in music videos. Now suppose it was the black house the president lived in, and money had faces of only black men. Malcolm X on the 50, Marcus Garvey on the 10, and $100 bill hit the face of Kingpin. Now pretend there was a market out for child adoption. Black kids were high demand and white kids were last option. When you shop, people stop like a robbery is sure to be escorted through the store and followed by security. What if black meant purity and white meant tainted? Now this picture that I painted is really fucked up, ain't it? Now you white folks can't imagine how this bullshit would feel, but ask me or any black man, they know, cause that shit's real. How the fuck would you feel?